This is Golden Years, a roadmap to navigate retirement with Mark Cordner, the podcast.
So, Mark, we've all been there, right? When you try to lose weight, it is tough, isn't it? I mean, you got pressure from folks. Sometimes it doesn't come off quick enough. I've been there. I know.
Well, I thought this was radio. I didn't think you could see my waistline. My heavens, yes. Yeah, weight loss can be difficult, but it's funny because it's actually quite simple. They always say that weight loss, it's very simple. It's just not easy. We got to move more. We got to eat less. I always say financial independence is a lot like that. You got to save more and spend less.
Look at you. Turn it right back into the financial talk. I love that. I love that. You're exactly right. And you got to think about it. It took a long time to put on the weight. It's going to take some time to get the weight off. Same thing with your money. It takes a long time to save up the money. So we want to make sure that we are putting that time in to conserve the money so it lasts as long as you do in retirement, if that makes any sense. Well, bringing it back to the weight loss here, dietitians say that the one thing that is most destructive when attempting to drop pounds is weighing yourself every single day. It just adds anxiety. It's not, not necessary. And it got me thinking about our 401ks, because there are folks out there, I am not one of them, but there are folks out there that literally check their 401k on a daily basis. Do you work with anybody like that? And do they call you in a panic if it went down a couple dollars, a couple cents? I mean, how does that work?
Absolutely. We work with people like that, and it's an addiction that we try to help them get over, because the truth is I know people who will check it on an almost hourly basis.
Oh, my gosh.
And so we have to kind of help cure them of that, because as they learn to understand the way we structure portfolios with structured investments, they really don't need to do that. And it is an addiction that's unhealthy, and it creates a certain neuroses of sorts. And I don't want to sound like a psychologist or anything, but it's just not a healthy behavior, because we're looking at something we can't control. There's this age-old analogy that people in the investing community use, and they talk about watching a young boy walking up the side of a mountain with a yo-yo in his hand. And if you fixate on that yo-yo, you miss the entire point that he's going up the mountain. Mm-hmm. And people who are looking at the market like that are looking kind of at that yo-yo. It's that, it's something that's kind of meaningless. It like the waves of the ocean. It's a natural pattern, and you just got to accept that it is what it is. But the truth is, to the degree that we overfixate on things like that, we also often start behaving in ways that are even more unhealthy. And I can give an example of this. I mean, if you think of how the financial media works now, everything that they do is geared towards telling us how we can engage with our portfolios. We can sit at home in our underwear at midnight trading stocks, and we forget often that these advertisers, the media pundits, are financed by advertisers who are winning every time we do those trades. When they encourage us to constantly be tracking the market and constantly trying to jump in, jump out, what they're doing is they're generating fees for their advertisers, Wall Street. And there are studies out there, Dalbar in particular puts a study out every year that measures consumer behavior, and particularly in the markets. And what they have shown repeatedly is that people who engage in this kind of behavior end up realizing about 1/3 of the market's natural returns. So, frankly, if you just turn the financial news off or quit watching these stock reports every hour, you'll be less inclined to engage in that kind of trading and self-harming behavior, and you'll be able to realize the market's natural returns much more easily. It's really counterproductive. It's an odd thing.
I think we both could agree. I mean, it's one thing to open your 401k statement when you get it, take a gander. Did it go up? Did it go down? How's it doing? Checking it every hour, much less every day. Oh my gosh, that just I have anxiety talking about it. That would drive me insane. But the 401k, it's an interesting animal. A lot of folks, whether you're checking it every day or whether maybe that's your main source for retirement, who knows? You're putting money away from that paycheck every single month, every single paycheck, and it got me thinking about 401ks in a different way, because a lot of folks are dipping into their 401ks, and maybe that's why they're checking it every day to see how they're doing, because they're dipping into their 401ks, when they have an emergency. There was actually a recent report found that a record number took early withdrawals from their accounts last year due to things, again, that we can't control. Inflation, maybe they had a foreclosure, and maybe they lost their job and were behind on bills or debts. So can you explain what happens to a 401k savings in the long run when people start dipping in there for money here and there?
Oh, absolutely, and we see this a lot. I work mostly with private investors, but for some of them, we actually do their company retirement plans. And I'm thinking in particular of one company that's a construction company, and a number of their employees are constantly calling my office to get these, $200, $400, $500 kind of withdrawals out of the account. And it's kind of like trying to build a snowman and having someone whacking away at that snowball every step of the way. I often use that analogy with taxes, with Uncle Sam whacking away at the snowball. But either way, if someone's taking off of that snowball, it's just not going to be able to compound. We know that when we start with a small snowball, it doesn't seem like it's growing much as we push it forward, but suddenly it starts plumping, boom, boom, boom. It starts getting bigger and bigger. Anyone who's played in the snow understands this idea of compounding. Well, to the degree we keep whacking away at it, we're inhibiting its potential growth. And so that's self-harming. So we try very hard to teach people, and certainly in our public education classes, we talk about the importance of the bank. And as much as I'm not a big fan of banks, I am a fan of the fact that you can put money in a bank or credit union and you can get at it within the hour. So we always encourage people to find what I call their magic number. Most financial planners will tell you that you should have 3 to 6 months worth of your living expenses saved, just in case the air conditioner goes out or the car breaks down or something like that, so we don't turn to credit cards. I think that's very wise, but I would suggest that it's not maybe as simple as just 3 to 6 months worth, because everyone has different kind of emotional things that we bring to the financial topic. It's often based upon our childhood experiences, the way we were raised. And so I speak in terms of a magic number. Everyone's got a number in the back of their head, and it's different for husbands and wives even, but everyone's got a number in the back of their head that they need to have in an emergency account just to feel like they can sleep well at night. And at the end of the day, it's about being able to sleep well at night as well as avoiding that self-harming of tapping into your retirement accounts too much. So let's find out what your number is. If your number is 20,000, if it's 50,000, whatever that number is, let's get you there. But let's not have more than that at the bank, because that then becomes inefficient. We want to move the money periodically. We want to sweep any excess money out of the bank and get it into more productive financial vehicles, in vehicles that have better tax advantages, like the Roth IRA, for example. But yeah, we don't want to be tapping into our retirement accounts. That's very self-harming.
Well, your analogy with the snowman is great, right? You keep trying to move forward, you're trying to build this thing, and then whack, it just puts you back, 100 steps if you're going to dip into that fund. And then, oh, by the way, there is also some fees and penalties related to taking money out of this, right? Uncle Sam's going to get his part, that's for sure.
Well, I think of this one particular company, and the owners are wonderful people. They're very conservative. They work with there's a number of construction people. Some of them are financially sophisticated. Many of them are not. Many of them are from other cultures where they just aren't familiar with some of the financial strategies that we may take for granted. And so these people will call up and they'll want to take out, let's say, $300 from their simple IRA account. Well, because they're under the age of 59 and a half, they're not only getting hit with taxes, but they're getting hit with a 10% penalty for what's called a premature distribution. And in the case of these simple IRA plans, if you touch that money during their first 2 years, there's yet an additional penalty of 25%. So you get whacked at in many different ways by the government. We have to remember that whenever the government gives advantages to us, such as tax deferral or tax-free growth on traditional or Roth IRAs, respectively, whenever they give an advantage, there's always going to be strings attached. And so if we don't use the money in the way that they intended in giving those tax breaks, then they're going to penalize us. And so knowing that, we can avoid the penalties if we'll change our behavior. So let's get an emergency account in place. That should be one of the first things we do before we start getting involved in investments. Because, and here's another point that I think is critical. This has to do with behavioral economics, but it's the idea that, I guess it's like exercise. You want to build on successes. And one of the worst things in my mind is we get people started with a monthly savings plan, and maybe they overcommit it going into it. And so they have to pull back as the first time some bad luck hits, a car breaks down or something, and they're calling us up and they're embarrassed about it and they're feeling bad. Well, the truth is, it would have been better for us to have maybe scaled back and started with a less aggressive savings plan, but to have fully funded an emergency account first. Because then when we start focusing on the long-term plans, then we're building on successes. And so you have a year of success, and you boost up how much you're doing, and we're building on success after success. I'm told that, fitness trainers teach people this. I'm not very good at physical fitness, so I can't speak from experience there. But this idea of, building muscle, savings muscle is very important in the financial world. And so we have to prioritize it. We just have to. Otherwise, we end up at the end of the road, and we wonder, how did we get here with no money?
Investment advisory services offered through Golden Years Financial LLC, a registered investment advisory firm. Insurance is offered through Golden Years Insurance Services. These firms do not provide legal or tax advice. Consult your own legal and tax advisors before taking actions that may have tax implications. Investing in securities involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Insurance contracts' principal protection is based on the claim-paying ability of the respective insurer. None of the information contained on this website shall constitute an offer to sell or solicit to buy a security or insurance product. The information and opinions contained on this site or requested from this site are provided by third parties believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. They are provided for informational purposes only and are not a solicitation to buy or sell any of the products mentioned. Any media logos and or trademarks contained herein are the property of their respective owners, and no endorsement by those owners of Mark Cordner, Golden Years Financial, or Golden Years Insurance is stated or implied.